Sunday, 10th of September. It's still fresh, but what a pleasure to arrive at the grounds of Chantilly on board a Lotus 7. Philippe will spend the day meandering, admiring, discovering and enjoying a beautiful Sunday in the countryside. Chantilly Arts and Elegance is the perfect occasion to get your beautiful car out. Chantilly is a unique place for a day of relaxation in the countryside. It's an incomparable scene. It's also a competition where we can admire the most beautiful classic cars in the world. Chantilly Arts and Elegance is a day punctuated by multiple activities and one giant garden party. Finally, Chantilly is a modern concours d'Elegance for cars. It was September 10th, the Mille Arts and Elegance at Chantilly. If you missed it, here are 5 good reasons to be there for the 5th edition. Among the categories set by Patrick Peter this year, the one reserved for the race cars with chain transmission was the most surprising. And this one perhaps even more than all the others, because it's one of the very first cars of Ettore Bugatti, who in 1902 worked as an engineer at De Dietrich. Thanks to Marc-Antoine De Dietrich, the grandson of the creator of the brand, it's here in Chantilly.
Ettore Bugatti est arrivé à Niederbronn en Alsace.
Ettore Bugatti arrived in Alsace in 1902. He built 3 cars that were completely forgotten, and at De Dietrich, he didn't have much to say about Bugatti. Thanks to the restoration work and the work of historians, we know this period better now, and we have discovered a lot of information. And my dream comes true at Chantilly because the story connects with people and with the car on display. I hope you will see it running. More than a decade separates this De Dietrich from our current electric cars. And yet, did you know that the early history of the automotive industry was partly electric? That these cars were reserved for ladies who did not want to get dirty in the mud, and that the first car to travel over 100 kilometers per hour was electric, and that was in 1899. And here is the perfect replica of the car of Belgian Constantin Janazzi, named La Jamais Contente, and at the time when the future of electric cars was just beginning. Janazzi was an electrical engineer and mechanic and owner of a taxi company in Paris called Cabs. He had hundreds and they were electric. In this period in Paris, there was a network in Paris to recharge the cabs. After that, the petrol took over because batteries took too long to charge and were very heavy, while with litres of petrol, one can drive. Over the last century, automotive manufacturers have timidly attempted to launch electric models, some of which were on display in Chantilly. But we will have to wait for the arrival of Tesla for the electric market to really take off. The end of the story is yet to be written. And everyone is ready to go, even Ferrari, who are celebrating their 70th birthday this year. In order to celebrate with even dignity, Patrick Peter had the excellent idea to unite several cars of the brand around the time of Ferrari at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And there, of course, we speak of the finest of the fine in motorsport. Some of the visitors at Chantilly have come purely to see the rare mark of the 250 GT Sperimentale. It's a unique car, an aerodynamic study of Pininfarina that prefigures the famous 250 GTO that raced at Le Mans in the original blue colour. You heard well. There was a 250 GT Omologata, a GTO if you prefer. It was on the lawns of Chantilly and it did not fail to attract the attention of our friend Philippe, with the same title of bread van. Just a few metres on is Pierre Fillon, the president of the ACO who knows all too well the history of Ferrari at Le Mans. And each of these splendid cars marked the history of Le Mans and the bright red brand, or sometimes blue, in the image of this F40 LM.
C'est la première supercar. C'est la première supercar à avoir roulé.
It's the first time this supercar has run in a competition.
Et ça reste vraiment, je pense,
It's very much a car for the track.
Une voiture de course pour la route.
Paul Belmondo is a Ferrari driver, as is Felipe Massa, who is here at Chantilly as a guest of Richard Mille.
When you see from everything that Ferrari did, from where they started, 70 years anniversary is really an important moment for them, and I'm happy to be a little part of this very important moment.
All of these Ferraris deserved an elegant price, but one in particular caught the attention of the judges and was awarded to Best of Show of Post-War Cars. That was the 512 TR58 for Testarossa, because the cylinder heads of this beauty were painted red. This car won Le Mans twice, in 49 and 54. The second victory in the hands of Oliver Gendebien and Phil Hill, who was the first American driver to win in the 24 hours. A historic car in more ways than one then.
It's a responsibility, but with that, it's also a great privilege. The responsibility is, of course, to keep it well, to maintain it, and to see that it's used, and the purpose, of course, for motor cars to drive on the road, and also that everybody can enjoy it. It's not the possession of one person. It is really the greater joy is from all of those who are passionate with motor cars.
The 90 cars entered in the 16 categories of the competition were all worth seeing, and they parade in front of the judges and the public throughout Sunday morning. Chantilly has become a must-attend event after just 4 years. Nick Mason, collector and judge, is a regular at these competitions, which for him hold a real importance from a historical and cultural point of view.
I think perhaps one of the nicest things about these cars is they are living history, that actually the technology is interesting, the degree of restoration and so on, but actually the story that goes with them is actually as important as anything else. And I think now there's almost more of an interest in stories than there used to be. And I think this is a really great, a wonderful thing, because I think that's the thing that will capture the interest of a new generation and continue this.
And how could the younger generation possibly resist the jewels? Here is one of the 3 Bugatti 57 Atlantic built. There are only 2 left in the world. When it was first released in 1936, this car was the pinnacle of technology and automotive design.
And one of the most interesting parts of the design are, of course, that riveted spine that goes over the entire back and top of the car and down the hood. And that was done because the prototype conceptually was going to be made in electron, which is a combination of magnesium and aluminum. But that can't be welded because magnesium will catch on fire if you weld it. So they had this idea of making 2 shell halves and joining them together with rivets. It turns out that none of the Atlantiques actually were made of magnesium electron, but the rivets were so attractive that they said, well, we should keep those anyway.
The 57S Atlantic won the Best of Show Cars Before the War in Chantilly, of course. Today, there are nearly 16,300 visitors who have flocked to this 115-hectare park, which comprises the English Garden, French Gardens, Le Nôtre, and the 19th century treasure, the castle, the jewels of French heritage of Henri d'Orléans. Most of the visitors were of course here for the cars, but not exclusively, because the Chantilly Arts and Elegance is a cultural event. Each year, the event coincides with the launch of a major exhibition, and on Saturday evening, many visitors are able to discover the homage exhibition to Nicolas Poussin. With the usual grand gestures, Patrick Peter and Richard Mille have invited a large number of collectors and known personalities from all corners of the world for a huge banquet.
If only for tonight, I just need some time now to find a place to breathe. Slowly take my arms now.
With all the art, the hosts of this wonderful event have made a very impressive and high-class gathering.
Même si on est dans le domaine du luxe, on s'aperçoit que
Even if
d'abord,
one
le
is in
dénominateur
luxury,
commun, c'est la
one
passion.
realizes that the
Et que
common denominator
cette
is
se
passion,
communique très très bien et les gens qui viennent ici
and that we share this passion very well.
sont déjà particulièrement heureux parce qu'ils se retrouvent dans un contexte
People are happy to be here in the
qui est en
beautiful
même temps bon
setting.
enfant, parce que même si on est l'hiver chic, c'est bon enfant.
Even if it's a chic universe,
Il y a pas
there's no
ce côté
snobbery,
parfois,
no question of affordability in
très
Chantilly.
snob et très inabordable.
It's a
C'est un
true
vrai
Sunday in
dimanche
the
à la
countryside
campagne.
with a unique
Et du
atmosphere.
coup, ça crée une atmosphère qui est assez unique.
And this Sunday in the countryside actually began on Saturday for the collectors whose cars all still run perfectly. And so the organisers run tourist rallies in the surrounding roads. So, on Saturday, at dawn, owners of road-going classic supercars depart, despite precarious weather. For the GT cars, they head to the Circuit de Mortefontaine for driver workshops, where they can safely exploit the potential of their machinery, to the delight of Aston Martin and Mercedes SLR club members, honoured this year by Peter Auto. And all cars, GT and classics, meet at noon for a lunch, which, due to the weather, is less rural than planned. But the participants are not discouraged as they see David Coulthard, a great lover of the beautiful mechanics.
Well, I have a Pagoda from 1971, which I bought in 1995, so my second year in Formula One. So I've always enjoyed the classics. I couldn't afford at that time a Gullwing, which is my absolute favourite car. But you know, I think that all of the cars we see here, they're engineering art. And given the choice between hanging something expensive on the wall or parking in the garage, I would definitely park in the garage.
The castle grounds are filled with dozens of classic cars. Chantilly at the beginning of September is a rendezvous for all the clubs. There is something for all tastes and in all colours. The clubs compete with daring ideas in order to present beautiful scenery for the visitors and for the club members to meet and share their passion for beautiful classic cars, and often for a favourite marque. People come to Chantilly to see and to be seen.
De rencontrer des passionnés, de rencontrer éventuellement de
We are here to meet passionate people, future members that chat and share their experience,
sur l'herbe, d'admirer tout le
the
plateau
picnic,
qui est vraiment
and
exceptionnel.
admire all the cars. And this year, with so many Le Mans Ferraris, it's convivial and pleasant.
Avec beaucoup de beau temps.
Some of the clubs in attendance on the lawns of the castle attract large crowds, like the DS Club. Around the world, the Mentalist car has many fans, and particularly here in France, it's an icon and quite simply a goddess. It's a car that represents the story of France in the 50s through to the 70s. It's a magnificent car and very comfortable. It went very well on the road, and of course, it's a cinema star. We can really say that it's a car with its form and technology. It was on display at the car shows in 1955, and from the very first day, there were thousands of orders. I don't know what it would take to beat such a feat. Maybe a flying car? It's a special car, and it's very much a part of French history. The DS was the car of choice for former French presidents, Le Général de Gaulle and Georges Pompidou. And more recently, Emmanuel Macron had a DS as his official car, and a special place was reserved to display this presidential DS. One could admire several heads of state, and among others, the DS-21, 6.53 metres long, used by de Gaulle and Pompidou. Or these two unique copies of the SM convertible, four-door designed by Chapon. After just 4 editions of Chantilly, this has become the rendezvous for the most exceptional clubs, and so Mercedes chose this date to launch the SLR Club. The GT of the brand with the star had a dedicated place at the event. A beautiful sight to see and even to hear the discreet purr in the castle grounds. The clubs compete with boldness and know-how with the presentation of their stands. And they do it because the organisers reward the best entrants with a Grand Prix. And this year it's the Fiat fan club who have not failed to attract the attention of the crowds. Taking a little stroll among the hundreds of cars may inspire some to embark on a new adventure or to complete a collection. The Bonhams auction is the ideal place to find either the most sought-after jewels for the most fortunate of us or a more affordable purchase with cars on display from €15,000 in remarkable condition. The Arts and Elegance Circle at Chantilly is reserved for collectors, members of the jury and for partners. Philippe is a member, and after having travelled miles in the grounds of the park, it's time to let off steam. In the circle, chefs Relais and Château prepare a gourmet meal to recharge the guests' batteries, ready for the afternoon. Everywhere in the gardens of Chantilly, the party is very much underway.
Et là, le fromage.
And the time stops briefly for a sophisticated lunch on the grass. And once again, the clubs compete to distract the members. And how else could we end this garden party? with a taste of the crème chantilly, of course.
On n'a pas voulu faire un événement uniquement destiné aux amoureux.
We didn't want to make an event that was only for car lovers. Of course, we treat everyone as well as possible, and we offer them beautiful cars to look at.
Mais de temps en temps, moi, sur les concours, j'entends des femmes qui disent bon, chérie, au bout de 2 heures.
But often at these events, I hear women who tell their husbands they're fed up after just a few hours. Here they can't say that. They can visit the castle, which is wonderful. There is an exhibition of Picasso and Poussin, which is exceptional. We can see the arts exhibition. There are exhibitors who offer a variety of different themed things like perfume. There are many things away from the cars. We also think of the children who can play a bit of polo or sail a boat on the canal without any risks, and they can't get lost. There is entertainment all day long.
Ça fait des animations pour toute la journée.
The activities are an integral part of this day in the countryside in Chantilly. There are five models being fussed over by hair, makeup and wardrobe. In a few minutes, they'll be putting the creations of Balmain, Aymeric François and de Mille, Ida Ackerman and Yang Li to parade along the catwalk alongside 5 concept cars. The association of a Concours d'État and the Concours d'Elegance is logical, but it's only at Chantilly that it exists. Contemporary designers often admit that they are inspired by the past in order to find the path to seduction, and this presentation of Elegance is a perfect illustration. The 5 masters represented are sensational. DS with the DS7 crossback used by Emmanuel Macron during his investiture is on parade and accompanied by a model dressed by Aymeric François in a very Republican outfit. Aston Martin with the Vanquish S Zagato show off a car that will only ever have 99 models built, and all are already sold. This is presented in the company of designer Anne de Mille. The stylist Ida Ackerman is associated with the McLaren and their 720S supercar. On the Concours d'Elegance, it's the harmony between the cars and the designer that is judged, but also the elegance of the concept cars. And this year, the judges decided to choose 2 winners. So there were 2. The Renault Trésor, whose interior is like a jewellery case thanks to designer Laurence van den Acker. The model that parades with this car is dressed by Balmain. The Citroën Experience concept tied for the win, did so by the price. It was paired with a creation by Yang Li. Chantilly 2017 broke the records. Record number of visitors, record number of club cars with over 800 entered, record number of collectors from all over the world, and also a record of luck, that of missing a deluge on the weekend, strongly disrupted by the weather. One thing is now certain. The gods who love beautiful cars and the sun are a guest of this beautiful Sunday in the countryside.
Dream.